Beaches are classic vacation getaways where people go to relax and enjoy carefree fun. And just like no two grains of sand are alike, every beach has its own unique charm. But in these clips, a trip to the shore turns into something far more extraordinary. Here are 15 beach encounters that no one would believe if they hadn't been caught on camera. Number 15. Foot Beach. Since 2007, beachgoers have discovered an alarming number of severed feet littering the shore, many still in a sock or a shoe, up and down North America's west coast. Since then, at least 20 detached human feet have been found, mainly in Canada. Why though? The mystery had all the hallmarks of a classic mystery, with the question of why feet would suddenly start showing up in such numbers or at all. After years of gruesome finds, the mystery of human feet washing up on the coastline has finally been solved. The bodies that belonged to these feet went down whole. The feet were detached by hungry sea creatures. The reason for the foot finds is because of a change in the footwear industry. When a dead body is out at sea and sinks to the bottom of the ocean, it is quickly set upon by sea scavengers, like crabs or fish. They prefer to tackle the softer parts of the body rather than the tough, gristly bits. That includes our ankles. Over the last few decades, sneakers have been made of lighter foam, as well as including air pockets in the soles, responsible for both keeping the feet buoyant enough to eventually wash ashore and for giving the feet enough protection to be found relatively intact. It is definitely the last thing you would want to find combing the beach. Number 14. Paddleboard whale. An incredible encounter was caught on camera recently. Two friends were out for a casual afternoon paddleboarding off the coast of Argentina when they found themselves amongst whales. A lot of them. Up to a dozen, in fact. These two lucky paddleboarders had front row seats to the whale show. One of the boarders could be heard saying to a whale, "Hello, how are you?" in Spanish. That is how close they were. The pair can be seen paddling next to them. During the video, one paddleboarder is even knocked off their board by a whale fin. Whales can be watched from the beaches of Argentina at certain points of the year, as they get very close to shore between July and September. For these paddleboarders, these massive, playful whales are the main attraction. And anyone could experience this sort of thing here. If you continue from the Argentinian Atlantic coast to the Chilean Pacific coast, you can see blue whales, even orcas. It is one of the most reliable areas in the world to see whales. The men said they were not afraid at all, but instead were overjoyed at experiencing such a monumental sight. They do not need to worry. These whales do not need people. Number 13. Foam Beach. Danger has not stopped tourists from frolicking in this surf in India, even though the beach is coated in knee-deep foam that experts warn is toxic. The foam is likely the result of a mixture of washing detergent residue and other waste, whipped into a froth by wind and waves. You do not want to swim in it, but locals know better. The foam is a recurrent visitor to the beach, appearing each year when the monsoon rains wash pollution into the sea. These swimmers probably do not realize that the sewage from the city of more than 7 million people washes directly into the sea here, yet the stretch of coastline, called Marina Beach, is the largest urban beach in India and sees tens of thousands of visitors daily. The foam has the potential to cause skin irritation and damage, and fishermen have been warned to stay out of the water. And on occasion, the value of the fish has plummeted to nothing, as locals suspect that the fish are contaminated by the visible pollution on the beach. And in recent years, pollution runoff caused mass fish die-offs on the coast here. Pollution is now a bigger threat to India's beaches than the rising seas from climate change. Despite warnings, families played in the bubbles anyway. Number 12. Crocodile on beach. Beachgoers in Santa Marta, Colombia were forced to run away in shock after a huge crocodile stormed onto a beach and strolled down to the shoreline. The clip shows a large American crocodile walking onto the beach in the Tayrona National Natural Park. The American crocodile is considered at risk in nearly all parts of its North, Central, and South American range. A small remnant population lives in southern Florida, but most are found in southern Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and northern South America. Their habitat of choice is the fresh or brackish water of river estuaries, coastal lagoons, and mangrove swamps, so this is a rare sight indeed. A group of young men who are looking the other way are seen almost walking straight into the huge reptile and end up running off in a panic. Screams and shouts can be heard as beachgoers swarm to the opposite end of the beach to escape the animal. The crocodile just strolls its way down to the water, where it stops as onlookers watch it in shock. National Park rangers later evacuated the beach, as much to save the crocodile from being bothered by curious onlookers and to protect people from the dangerous reptile. Number 11. Mystery white whale. This whale's carcass was discovered on the beach of Malakuta in eastern Victoria, Australia. The rare albino whale, feared to be the world's most famous white humpback, Megalodon, washed ashore. A local resident was out fishing when he kayaked over and discovered the dead mammal. Each year, between April and November, Thousands of humpback whales in Australia migrate to Antarctica to feed and breed, including the world-famous Migaloo, thought to be the only pure white adult humpback known to ocean researchers. Migaloo, which means white fella in several Aboriginal First languages, is a local superstar. Many fear the dead animal could be the snow-white whale who had regularly been spotted off the coast here since the 1990s. He has become somewhat of a sea life celebrity. A male humpback, estimated to have been born in 1986, he has been missing for the last 2 years after losing his tracking chip. The 40-ton, 25-foot humpback albino whale typically turns up around here in late June. Marine experts have said the location of the whale lines up with Migaloo's migration pattern. Scientists are currently attempting to determine if the whale is Migaloo through the use of photographs and genetic sampling. Now it's time for today's topic. In July 2025, scientists investigating unusual tidal patterns along the coast of Recife, Brazil, stumbled upon the remains of a massive shark-like creature that had washed ashore. What immediately caught their attention was that the carcass did not resemble a great white, tiger shark, or any other known living species. The creature measured nearly 60 feet in length, with jagged, irregular teeth unlike those of modern sharks. Its skin appeared dark, leathery, and aged, covered in scars and ridges that gave it an almost prehistoric appearance. Marine biologists noted that its dorsal fin was deformed, shorter and broader than that of any great white, while its jaws extended wider than typical shark proportions, suggesting an adaptation for consuming much larger prey. Samples of the tissue were taken for DNA analysis, though early reports leaked to local media suggest anomalies inconsistent with any catalogued species. Some scientists have speculated that the carcass could represent a deep-sea giant brought up by shifting currents, while others believe it might be a surviving descendant of the Megalodon, thought to have gone extinct more than 3 million years ago. Authorities quickly restricted public access to the beach, and the remains were transported to a secure facility. Yet one haunting question lingers. If this was just a carcass, what else could still be alive in the deep? Number 10. Inside Sinkhole Beach. Erosion and landslips have left a gaping 40-foot wide hole in the cliffs near Sunderland in England. The huge sinkhole has appeared, revealing a hidden underground beach. The natural phenomenon, called Sutter Hole, first appeared as a small sinkhole in 2003, but it has grown every year since. The hole is now so big a hidden beach has been revealed with the sea forcing its way through a crack in one of the cliff walls. However, the National Trust, which manages the cliff path around the sinkhole, has warned walkers and dog owners to avoid the area. They have even been forced to cordon off the sinkhole, which is close to the cliff coast path. They have put up fencing and warning signs around the sinkhole, which is away from the main path at the cliff tops of the Lees and Whitburn Coastal Park, known locally as the Eerie. But how could you not want to check it out? It does look like a very cool place to explore. By its nature, the coastline is constantly changing, with some areas particularly prone to erosion and landslips. What began as a small hollow a few years ago has grown into a huge beast of a secret sinkhole, adding to the rugged coastline. But it is a good idea to stick to the paths when sinkholes are a possibility. Number 9. Surfing snake. A beachcomber searching for sea glass at South Carolina's Myrtle Beach State Park ended up capturing video of something far more unusual, a timber rattlesnake in the surf. It may seem strange, but rattlesnakes can and do swim. In fact, they are good swimmers. Unlike anacondas, they do not spend their lives in the water, but they are more than capable of crossing a stream or even a lake to get where they are going. Rattlesnakes swim to find food, pursue mates, or find a new place to live. They do not swim to hunt, so fish do not have to worry. Because rattlesnakes are cold-blooded, they are not likely to swim in high alpine lakes unless something forces them to take the plunge. A warm ocean seems to work for this snake. The timber rattlesnake, also called the American viper, is a large pit viper with a wide distribution across the eastern half of the US and Canada. Adults typically reach lengths of up to 5 feet, but there are reports of timber rattlesnakes growing up to 7 feet long, and the species is highly venomous. Though it may strike if necessary, the timber rattlesnake is more docile than other members of its family and is more likely to stay motionless when encountered in the wild. This snake seems to be enjoying its visit to the beach. Number 8. Hairy green eggs. Surfers and early morning walkers on the Australian beach were stunned to find thousands of weird egg-like things recently, like a scene from an alien planet. On the sands of DY Beach near Sydney, hundreds of these green sphere-like objects were scattered all over the sand. Adults who walked the beach every day said they had never seen such a sight before in their lives. Some compared the eerie sight to something out of a science fiction movie, with the mysterious spheres dotting the shoreline like alien eggs waiting to hatch. Children picked them up with curiosity, squeezing them and discovering their spongy, rubber-like texture, while older beachgoers speculated nervously about whether they were safe to touch. A few locals even wondered if the strange spheres had washed ashore following some secret underwater event, like a deep-sea volcanic eruption or a disturbance in the ocean floor. Environmental groups quickly arrived to examine the phenomenon, taking samples for lab analysis and reassuring residents that the objects were natural rather than harmful. Photographs spread across social media, sparking a frenzy of online theories ranging from extraterrestrial pods to government experiments gone wrong. Scientists noted that similar occurrences had been documented in rare conditions, but never before in such large numbers on this particular beach. The mystery attracted curious visitors from surrounding areas, turning DY Beach into an impromptu attraction and filling the quiet morning with hushed excitement and speculation. Sometimes, dead seagrass can roll around and form balls like underwater tumbleweeds, but that is made of dead material. These look to be living. Some beachgoers reported that the balls were spongy and felt like live algae of some kind, which is probably not far from the truth. They are a type of sponge-like seaweed that form egg shapes possibly to protect themselves from predators. The spheres create the kind of habitat where living algae form into balls, rather than attaching themselves to rocks or other hard surfaces. The conditions of the sunshine and warm weather brought on by spring, along with rough waves crashing on this Aussie beach, created the perfect conditions to bring the balls ashore. According to researchers, the spherical shape of the habitat allows the algae to roll back into the water. Number 7. Old gravestones. These tombstones in San Francisco became visible recently, including bits and pieces of marble and granite that once marked the final resting places of citizens long dead. Strong winds and shifting sands uncovered this eerie reminder of the past. Discarded gravestones and broken tomb markers used decades ago to shore up the seawall. San Francisco authorities closed nearly all the city cemeteries and moved the bodies in the early 20th century, part of a move to make space for the growing city. But thousands of tombstones were used as landfill or in other ways throughout the city. Some locals recall stories from their grandparents about seeing wagons filled with headstones being carted away during the relocations, many of which were never properly documented. Beachgoers who stumble upon these fragments today often stop in shock, reading half-visible names and dates carved into the stone, realizing they are touching remnants of forgotten lives. Some markers still reveal elegant engravings of angels, flowers, or ornate lettering, though weathered by decades of waves and sand. Tourists often mistake them for art installations until they learn the chilling truth of their origin. The discovery has reignited debates about how cities treat their dead and whether San Francisco should have preserved more of its early cemeteries. Historians argue that the repurposed stones are ghostly testaments to the city's complicated relationship with its own history. Local residents have even begun informal efforts to map where these fragments emerge, hoping to piece together the stories of those whose final resting markers now lie scattered across the landscape. Some families searching genealogy records have found eerie connections, wondering if one of the fragments could have once belonged to their ancestors. While this sounds weird and perhaps unconventional at the time, it was not unheard of to reuse the old stones for other projects. They are part of San Francisco's history. When you are strolling along the beach here, there are plenty of things you expect to see washed up on the shore: seashells, starfish, crabs, maybe even an old shoe or part of someone's surfboard. What you might not expect to find is a century-old tombstone, but strong winds often uncover all kinds of things. Number 6. Creepy dolls. Twice a week, researchers wander up and down the Gulf Coast of Texas searching for endangered animals and to understand the coastal ecosystem better. There is also a lot of garbage that is washed up on the beach, but amongst the random debris they found, one type of trash stands out: creepy toy dolls. Why do some dolls seem so creepy? Countless movies and TV shows have capitalized on a similar premise: dolls as evil villains. The more human they look, with moving glass eyes, realistic hair, or a slight blush on the cheek, the more they weird us out. These toy dolls are no exception. Some were missing limbs, others were coated in barnacles and seaweed, giving them a nightmarish appearance that startled even the seasoned researchers. A doll with a cracked porcelain face stared blankly from the sand, while another had its tangled hair filled with shells and grit, making it look like something out of a horror film. The team noted that many dolls seemed decades old, perhaps washed away from faraway coasts during storms or drifting across the ocean for years. Locals who spotted the dolls began sharing pictures on social media, where theories quickly spread about shipwrecks, old landfills, and even supernatural explanations. Beachcombers started treating doll sightings as an eerie treasure hunt, with some collecting the figures as bizarre souvenirs. Despite the unsettling aura, the dolls became unexpected symbols of ocean currents' strange pathways and how human-made objects can wander the seas for decades. For the researchers, every doll told a small story of pollution, ocean travel, and the haunting overlap between playthings and environmental impact. Even children who stumbled across them often recoiled in fear, asking why the scary dolls kept coming back from the sea. Researchers found dozens of dolls in various doll body parts while surveying a 40-mile stretch of the beach. And though it is not clear why dolls, specifically, keep washing up on the beach, the unnerving discoveries help raise awareness about the ripple effects of littering. It is an eerie illustration of one of the reserve's important research findings, that Texas beaches get 10 times the amount of trash as those other north-central states along the Gulf of Mexico. Yikes! Texas likely gets so much debris because of the loop current, a warm water flow that travels into the Gulf. But why so many dolls? No one knows. Number 5. Man in a wheel. This guy really knows how to cause a stir. This floating human hamster wheel was actually occupied by its creator, Reza Bellucci. For years now, the Florida ultramarathon runner and inventor has been trying to combine his passions by getting into a floating hamster ball contraption and running across the water. He has several times attempted to travel long distances in a self-propelled watercraft resembling a hamster ball. Onlookers often gathered along beaches and piers just to catch a glimpse of the bizarre spectacle, with many cheering him on while others shook their heads in disbelief. His brightly colored hydropod, fitted with paddles and flotation devices, often looked like a giant carnival ride drifting across the sea. Each attempt drew media attention, with reporters calling him a mix of daredevil and dreamer, while authorities worried about the potential dangers. More than once, the Coast Guard had to intervene, citing safety concerns and the unpredictable nature of the ocean. Still, Reza's determination seemed unshaken, as he often explained his dream wasn't just about adventure but also raising awareness for causes close to his heart, like peace and helping the homeless. To him, the hydropod was a symbol of human endurance, creativity, and the belief that nothing is impossible if you keep moving forward. Nonetheless, when this mysterious contraption washed up on the beach, authorities were confused who was actually on a journey. He set out from Florida in his homemade hydropod and planned to walk on water up the East Coast all the way to the Big Apple, aka New York. The Coast Guard said a crew saw the man in a wheel about 7 miles off the coast during his attempt. The crew followed Reza to ensure his safety and to prevent other vessels from colliding with the hydropod. But he hit a snag when his team alerted him that his tracking device was not working. He came ashore to get another one, and that is when the commotion started. There is no stopping Reza. He since decided to change his plans. Instead of walking to New York, he is going to set off from the Bermuda and go all the way to London and then on to Portugal. Number 4. Bleeding rock. These bizarre bleeding rocks look like something from out of this world, like a mass of fleshy organs inside a rock. But it is actually an animal. The creature is called Payura, and it belongs to a class of sac-like marine life known as sea squirts. It is a filter feeder that eats by sucking in seawater and filtering out microorganisms. Fishermen and divers often describe the harvesting process as surreal, slicing into what appears to be stone, only to reveal bright crimson flesh inside. Some locals even call it the living rock, and it has become a strange blend of mystery and tradition in coastal markets. Its metallic blood has sparked scientific interest, with researchers curious if these creatures could hold clues for bioremediation or even industrial applications. For villagers, however, the value lies in its taste and cultural role, as Payura has been a staple in dishes for generations. It is often mixed with salads or served with lemon and spices, creating a strong, iodine-rich flavor that first-timers either love or can't bear. Tourists who stumble upon it for the first time are usually left stunned, both by its alien-like appearance and by the fact that people actually consume it. Its blood can contain high concentrations of metal, which may be 10 million times that found in surrounding seawater, although the source and function of this element's concentrations are unknown. It certainly looks alarming, and believe it or not, these blood rock creatures are heavily fished. It is considered a delicacy in the nearby Central American countries. Many locals don wetsuits and goggles to gather the delicacy, mostly in rocky areas close to shore, but occasionally farther out to sea. People typically cut into slices with a handsaw, then use their fingers to pull out the flesh, and it is usually sold in strips, but it may be canned. It can be eaten raw or cooked, and it is exported to numerous countries, including Sweden and Japan. Number 3. Hairy beast. If anything, this is why you should never be alone on a beach. As you can see, a huge, hairy, mysterious sea creature washed up on a beach in the Philippines, and stunned locals flocked to the beach to marvel at this monster-like beast. Footage of the creature went viral as soon as it was posted, with several people offering up their suggestions as to what the hairy creature could be. Children clung to their parents while pointing at the enormous mass, some crying out in fear, while others begged for selfies near the strange find. The stench from the decaying body was overwhelming, Yet it didn't stop hundreds of curious onlookers from gathering around, snapping photos and recording videos. Rumors spread quickly through the village, with elders recalling old folklore of sea monsters that would surface after natural disasters. Some whispered that the creature was a bad omen, tied to the recent tremors felt in the region. Fishermen, more familiar with the ocean's mysteries, shook their heads but admitted they had never seen anything quite like it in their lifetime. Officials tried to push back the swelling crowd, worried that the decaying body could carry bacteria or disease, but their warnings were often drowned out by the excitement. News crews arrived within hours, broadcasting live images across the country and fueling international headlines that speculated wildly about the creature's origins. Several suggested that it could be Appa, a fictional character from the animated television series Avatar, The Last Airbender, while others commented saying, "It is that creature from the never-ending story," and someone suggested the beast may be similar to a supposed half-whale, half-polar bear creature that washed up here in the 1920s. The logical explanation is this. The hairy beast is actually a 20-foot-long whale carcass. Local scientists have said. The body of the whale, which weighs approximately 4,500 pounds, is believed to have turned white due to an advanced stage of decomposition and is thought to have died possibly after being hit by a ship. Likely it came ashore following a recent earthquake. Whatever it is, it certainly gave a lot of locals a sight to see and an occasion to take a few hairy beast selfies until officials could properly dispose of the whale corpse. Number 2. Barnacle creature. The name gooseneck barnacles stem from the notion that these bizarre creatures were originally thought to be actual goose eggs. It is true. Unable to observe geese far away breeding grounds, medieval naturalists believed that when goslings were ready to hatch, these barnacles would fall from the rocky perches and miraculously, fully formed goslings would rise from the sea. Over centuries, this unusual belief became so widespread that it was even written into medieval texts, with some monks convinced that eating gooseneck barnacles was acceptable during Lent, since they believed them to be part plant, part bird. Sailors returning from long voyages told tales of cliffs covered with goose trees, where the barnacles clung tightly and supposedly birthed birds straight into the water. The myth persisted across Europe, influencing not only folklore but also dietary rules in the Catholic Church. It wasn't until closer scientific observation in the 16th and 17th centuries that naturalists began to challenge the belief, recognizing that the barnacle was an animal in its own right. Even then, the barnacle's bizarre form, with its long fleshy stalk and shell-like body, added to the mystery, making it one of the strangest marine creatures known at the time. For coastal communities, harvesting these barnacles became both a source of fascination and survival, though it required scaling dangerous rocky cliffs where the creatures anchored themselves in rough surf. Their ability to withstand crashing waves, while dangling precariously in dense clusters, made them a symbol of resilience against the sea's fury. To this day, in places like Spain and Portugal, daring fishermen called perceberos risk their lives clinging to wave-battered rocks to collect these prized delicacies. But no, the mysterious creature is a crustacean, and it has a long neck that is arguably more exciting than an actual gooseneck. They grow in dense groups with delicate, chalky white shells anchored to the object with a fleshy black stalk. They stand on their head and eat through their legs. They are filter feeders that are dependent on water movement for feeding, and even though they are weird, their oddity and scarcity makes them a luxurious delicacy. Connoisseurs delight in freshly steamed barnacles and dip them in bowls of hot melted butter. With such an evocative name, a plate of gooseneck barnacles is amongst the most expensive seafood dishes in the world, as much as $125 a pound. When it is not on the menu and lives a pretty typical life at sea being a crustacean, it is hard to believe that they are actually related to lobster and crabs. Number 1. Lego Beach. On the morning of February 13, 1997, 28-foot freak waves struck a cargo ship 20 miles off the coast of Cornwall, England, with the vessel tilting backwards and forwards. 62 huge containers, packed with a wide variety of freight, tumbled off the deck into the water. It is getting straight to the bottom. But if you find a piece of Lego on the beach in Cornwall today, chances are it is one of almost 5 million multicolored little bits that were swept into the sea that day. The cargo container sank. One of them was filled with nearly 5 million pieces of Lego. Beachcombers soon began to notice the strange phenomenon, and word quickly spread through local villages of Lego treasures hiding in the sand. Some families even began making weekend trips specifically to search for the brightly colored bricks, treating it like a seaside treasure hunt. Over the years, entire collections have been pieced together by lucky collectors who uncovered scuba tanks, miniature flippers, or even rare Lego dragons among the pebbles. Environmentalists also took an interest, documenting how the hardy plastic toys resisted the elements while highlighting the broader issue of ocean pollution. Some Lego pieces have traveled far beyond Cornwall, with reports of them being found in Ireland, the Netherlands, and even as far as the United States. The mystery of how ocean currents carried them thousands of miles fascinated oceanographers, turning the Lego spill into a quirky but valuable case study in marine drift patterns. For locals, though, it became part of the region's identity. Stories of children stumbling upon Lego dolphins or witches' brooms became almost folklore along the Cornish coast. Even today, more than 2 decades later, a lucky beachcomber might still stumble across one of the famous lost Lego pieces, a tiny reminder of that stormy day in 1997. One packed to the walls were the myriad of water-themed little Lego pieces, including divers, flippers, octopuses, scuba tanks, spear guns, seagrass, life rafts and jackets, whales, dolphins and dragons, as well as swords and witches' brooms. And they are turning up on this beach pretty regularly. Lego pieces had been washing up on beaches in Cornwall and Devon, as well as much further afield, for more than 2 decades now. Lego company officials issued a finder's keeper statement, telling people they were welcome to take any pieces they found, but they should probably wash them well first. So, on your next beach trip, don't forget to bring your camera. You never know what incredible moments you might capture. Just remember, safety comes first, and don't skip the sunscreen. Before you head out, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more amazing beach moments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.